operations management, planning techniques, and the next module we have is marginal analysis. What are the topics covered under this module? Terms related to marginal analysis, special orders, make versus buy, sell or process further, and finally keep or drop a segment. So let us discuss first some key terms related to marginal analysis. What is marginal analysis? Marginal analysis is a decision-making tool we use when we are making some business decisions. See, the idea behind marginal analysis is that whenever we make a decision, there are some costs to the decision and there are some benefits to the decision. Decisions are made at margins, so we will compare the marginal cost of the decision with the marginal benefit. If the marginal cost is more than the marginal benefit, then don't take that decision. But if the marginal benefit is greater than the marginal cost, then it's the point to take the decision. So there are many multiple uses of marginal analysis. We make a decision regarding new products. Should we launch new products or not? We use marginal analysis in changes in our output level. Should we increase our output level or should we not? Special orders. Sometimes we receive special orders from our customers and we have to decide that should we take this order or should we not? Should we make a particular component, particular part, or even a complete unit ourselves, or should it get it outsourced from some outside service provider? Make ourselves or buy from outside. And this is also an important application of margin analysis. In joint costing, we have to decide that whether should we sell the product as it is in the given form or should we process it further. Sell as is right now after the split off point, or should we process it further? And finally, should we continue running a specific business segment or should we drop it? We will discuss all these as we go along, but before that we need to discuss some basic terminologies. First of all, the direct cost. As the name suggests, direct costs are the costs that can be directly identified with the particular cost object. Like for example, if I'm talking about a pen, the cost that you can directly identify is the direct material used in the manufacture of this pen and the direct labor. So the cost that can be directly identified in a given cost object like this pen is called the direct cost, and they are relevant for our decision making. Next is prime cost. I'm sure you would know from your basic cost management terms. Prime cost is the sum of direct material and direct labor. They're called prime cost and they are relevant, of course. Okay, how do we decide which cost is relevant, which revenue is relevant, which cost is irrelevant, which revenue is irrelevant? You can memorize this mnemonic FDA. This is what we use in our CMA. CMA, cost management, margin analysis, way difficult than what you're doing in CPA. There are very difficult questions in CMA that you in CPA cannot even dream of solving. So keep that in mind. So we use this mnemonic FDA. F stands for future. Any cost or revenue from the future is relevant in decision making. Any cost and revenue that differs between the different options is relevant. Any cost or revenue that is avoidable is relevant. So FDA is the simple mnemonic that you can use to distinguish between relevant or irrelevant cost and revenue for a particular decision making. Discretionary cost, as the word suggests, these are the costs that is dependent upon the management's decision. If the management decides so, these costs will be incurred, like research and development budget, marketing budget. And if the management decides not to incur, so they won't be spent. So these are, of course, since based on the management decision, so they are relevant. Then we have incremental cost. Incremental cost is also known as differential cost, also called marginal cost. Sometimes it is called the outlay cost or out-of-pocket cost. Let me explain with the help of an example. Let's say you produce 10,000 units. And for these 10,000 units, the total cost incurred is $120,000. And let's say if you increase your production to 12,000 units, your total cost goes up to $135,000. Right? Now, between these two levels of output, the cost differs by $15,000. If converted on per unit basis, you can see it's about $7.5 per unit, right? Now, incremental cost is the marginal cost of producing one extra unit, which is 7.5. This cost is also called the differential cost between the output level of 10,000 and 12,000. It's also called the outlay cost or the out-of-pocket cost, because this is the extra cost we have to pay in order to increase our output from 10 to 12, right? So remember, incremental costs are the additional costs incurred to produce additional units of production, and of course they are relevant in decision making. Next key term is the opportunity cost. I'm sure this is the term you would have encountered in your earlier studies in your elementary accounting courses. Opportunity cost is the benefit foregone. It's the cost of foregoing the next best alternative. Let's say I have 10 kgs of material which I can sell in the market for $5,000. Right now, it's a unique material used in certain products manufacturing. I decide not to sell it in the market, rather use it in producing a product X. What I am giving up in order to produce X, this is the opportunity cost I must consider in the decision-making analysis. Similarly, I have $100,000 in my deposit account that earns 5% return every year. That means $5,000. I decide to withdraw these funds and invest in some business. I am giving up this $5,000 of interest income for the business venture. This is what I am giving up. This is what I'm foregoing. This is the opportunity cost. Similarly, let's say we are producing product X and now we have received a specific order to produce product Y and we are operating at full capacity. In order to make product Y, you will have to give up 5 units of X. So this sacrifice of 5 units of X are being sacrificed. This is the opportunity cost for producing product Y. We'll discuss this in detail. These are just simple examples, so we will discuss it in a much finer detail. And remember, opportunity cost is relevant in decision making. Then irrelevant costs. As the name suggests, these costs are not considered. They are ignored in decision making. Why? Because these costs do not change among alternative options we have. Like for example, we have a project 1, project 2. We can take any of these 2 projects. We have a chief consultant who is paid $10,000 per year, for example. So whether you take on project 1 or project 2, the cost is the same. In both of these projects, we have to pay him irrespective which project is chosen. So this cost paid to chief consultant or chief architect consultant is irrelevant. Next concept is the sunk cost. As the name suggests, it is the cost that has already been paid. It is incurred in the past, hence it is irrelevant. Irrelevant, relevant, 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 relevant. Like the machinery purchased 5 years ago, the original historical cost gone, paid off, poof, out, gone, sunk cost. Controllable costs. As the term suggests, these are the costs that a particular manager can control, that is in his discretion, that he decides to incur. So costs that are authorized by the business unit manager or the decision maker, they are called the controllable cost. And by name, uncontrollable costs, so they are relevant. Uncontrollable costs are the costs that a particular manager at a certain level cannot control. Now, for example, we have a plant manager. He is the one responsible for production. So he can control material and supplies. They are controllable to him. But since the plant purchase and the cost originally that the plant was purchased at, the depreciation of plant, the insurance of property, plant and equipment in his production facility, they are not controllable by him. He cannot influence these costs. Next, we have the avoidable costs and avoidable revenue. Avoidable costs are the costs that can be avoided, like if I am producing product X, incurring certain amounts of material, labor, or overheads, and if I decide not to produce X, the cost that I will save, I will no longer have to incur. They are called avoidable costs. And unavoidable costs are the costs which are as I said, that you have to pay no matter which option, which decision you take are unavoidable. You have to pay them. Like rent, you have to pay. Insurance, property taxes, they are the cost which have to be paid, hence they are irrelevant. Next subunit is special orders. Special orders. What are special orders? Sometimes we might receive certain orders outside our regular business activity. Now, should we take on this order or should we reject it? It involves marginal analysis. We will make a comparison between the price that is being paid for the special order versus the relevant cost of taking this order. So if price is more than the relevant cost, take this order on. But if the price is less than the relevant cost, then clearly you have to reject. So remember, the comparison between the price for the special orders versus the relevant cost is the criteria. Now, there are two situations. You receive a special order and you have excess capacity. When excess capacity is available, then you should simply compare the price you are getting for that order versus the incremental cost. If the price is greater than the incremental cost, go for it. But if the price is less than the incremental cost, which is usually the variable cost, then simply don't. I'll explain this idea through an example. And when there is no excess capacity, in that case, you will be considering incremental cost, but you will also consider the opportunity cost. When there is no excess capacity means you are operating at full capacity, so you may have to give up something to take on this special order. So in that case, you will add an additional opportunity cost of lost production or the opportunity cost of lost contribution. So please remember, if there is excess capacity, your incremental revenue is compared with the incremental cost. And if there is no excess capacity, the firm is operating at full capacity. In that case, you will compare incremental with cost with incremental revenue, but you will also bring in the lost contribution, the sacrifice, the given up production for this special order. Let us make sense out of it through a given example. Cater Company is a manufacturer of industrial component. This is the situation where we have excess capacity. Cater Company is a manufacturer of industrial components. Product KB96 is normally sold for $150 per unit and has the following cost. So that's our normal selling price to our normal customers. Direct material, labor, variable manufacturing overhead, fixed selling, shipping and handling, fixed selling, and the total cost is 90. Cater has received a special one-time order of 1000 units of KB96. Assuming that Cater has excess capacity, calculate the minimum acceptable price for this one-time special offer. Our minimum price should cover at least material, labor, variable overheads, and shipping. If you add all these, I guess you will get $50. So my incremental cost is $50. So my revenue should at least minimum should be $50. So as there is no profit, no loss. This is the minimum price, which basically is your variable cost. Direct material, direct labor, variable overheads, and shipping and handling, they are all variables. In other words, if you are operating at excess capacity, any special order should cover at least your variable cost per unit. But if you are operating at full capacity, assume that the same cost as in the previous example, Cater has received a special one-time order. This time there is no excess capacity. So we have received a special one-time order of 1000 units of KB96. Assume that Cater is operating at full capacity. Also assume that the next best alternative use of the capacity is the production of LB64, which would produce a contribution margin of $10,000. Now listen, we will surely charge $50 for each KB96 if we are operating at excess capacity. But when there is no excess capacity, that means we will be sacrificing something, we will be giving up something. In this case, we are giving up $10,000 of contribution for another product, LB64. So we have to consider this lost opportunity cost or the contribution margin, lost contribution margin in this order. So if you calculate on per unit basis, 10,000 upon 1000 KB96, $10 of lost contribution must also be recovered from this customer. So the minimum price you will charge is the variable cost plus the sacrifice contribution per unit on LB64. This is what we are giving up for the special order, so the customer should pay at least $60. So this is how you decide what price you should charge, depending upon whether you have the excess capacity or you don't. So there are certain strategic factors you should also consider. Regular pricing to existing customer. Now this is an important point, because if you are giving some special pricing to some customers, just like in the previous example, see what is the regular price, $150. Now if you charge let's say $75 from the special customer, then this could affect our sales in the regular market. So this is an important point. Regular pricing to existing customers could be affected when you offer certain attractive price to your special customers. Then second point to consider, if we are offering $75 per unit to this special order customer, is there any possibility for repeat sales? Yes, then you should accommodate, because it will result in more sales in the future. Third important point is that you need to see the capacity. Are you operating at full capacity? Are you operating at less than full capacity? This will determine the price that you should charge. So we will know that our minimum price in case of excess capacity is 50, and the maximum price we are currently selling at is 150. So you can strike a deal between these two numbers. This is the absolute minimum, this is the maximum you will charge, the maximum the customer will pay depending upon the current market price. So you can strike a deal somewhere in between. Of course, taxes must be considered. Any income generated on special order is taxable, so the tax impact should also be considered. And yes, if you are operating at 70% capacity, the new order might require you to operate at 95% capacity. So this excessive use of machine would mean that there would be some maintenance that would be required sooner than expected. So these are some strategic factors must be considered. Next, we have make versus buy. The next subunit is make versus buy. What are make versus buy decisions? Make versus buy means, should we make a product ourselves, or should we buy this from an outside service provider? Should we make it, or should we buy it from some outside? This is also called insourcing. If you make the item yourself, this is called insourcing, or if you buy from a third party, this is called outsourcing. So it's basically insourcing versus outsourcing. So this is something similar to the special order decision. You will compare the cost of making versus the cost of buying, and then you will decide which one is the. Now another important point is what you should do in case of excess capacity and when there is no excess capacity. When a business has excess capacity, should we make or should we buy? Here you will consider the avoidable costs. The cost you will avoid is the direct material. You no longer need to purchase direct material, direct labor, variable overheads, avoidable fixed overheads. Remember, not all fixed overheads, avoidable fixed overheads. You will compare these with the cost of buying. And when there is no excess capacity, in that case, in addition to these above, you will also consider the opportunity cost associated with this decision, similar to what we discussed in the previous example of Cater, when you have to fulfill a customer order which requires you to give up some of your production. The loss contribution must be added to the cost, right? This is the same idea. You will consider the avoidable cost plus the opportunity cost associated with this decision, and you will compare it with the cost of buying, and then you'll go for it. So let us do an example that will explain the idea. Offset manufacturing produces 20,000 units of part number 125. The production costs are as follows: direct material, direct labor, variable overheads, and fixed overheads in total and on per unit basis. An outside manufacturer approaches offset manufacturing and offers to sell the same part for $5 per unit. Offset has excess capacity. The $10,000 factory floor supervisor's salary is the only fixed cost that will be eliminated. That's the avoidable fixed cost. Rest of it won't be. Now let us first see what is the avoidable cost. When you do not produce, you save 0.5 material. When you don't produce, you save $2 of labor, $1 of variable overheads. But this is interesting. Out of this 40,000, $10,000 related to to office floor or the factory floor supervisor salary, this is only avoidable fixed cost. The rest of the 30,000 is unavoidable. So this is the avoidable cost, hence relevant. So you need to divide $10,000 of the avoidable fixed cost with the number of units. So that will give you 0.5 on per unit basis. So this is the avoidable cost: material, labor, variable overhead, and avoidable fixed cost per unit. If you add all of these, just look at this, 2, 3, and 4.0. So this is the cost to make, but the third party manufacturer is providing the item at $5. So clearly your avoidable cost is less, whereas the price from some outside seller is more. So it is better to produce, because producing costs less, acquiring costs more. So the decision would be that we should produce the good ourselves, because the cost of producing is $4. Cost of acquiring is $5, so we will produce the goods ourselves. Strategic factors, yes, they are important in make versus buy decision. Quality issues. When you are outsourcing a certain component or even a complete unit to a third party, there is an issue of quality. Quality should not be compromised. Reliability. You are now depending on third party for your production. If they are reliable in their deliveries, then you will be able to make good use of this agreement or arrangement. Otherwise, unreliable vendors or third parties could put you in trouble, could affect your supply chain. Warranties. Since you will be the ultimate seller, so you will be responsible for warranties. So any compromise on quality could put your business in trouble. And yes, when you decide to outsource your production or some component or even a completed unit, you lose control, you lose flexibility, and you also lose confidentiality of your production system. So if you are willing to give up your control, willing to share your product information to third parties, and you want to give up the flexibility you have while you produce goods yourself, then go ahead, outsource. And the last point is an important one. It is suggested that you should outsource. Firms do, but you should outsource those activities, those components, those parts which you are not efficient in. You should make most efficient use of resources yourself, do the activities yourself, manufacture the components yourself if you are efficient in producing. If certain items are costlier, you are not efficient in producing them, only those components or parts must be outsourced. So that completes your makes versus buy. Now we have sell or process further. Sell or process further. Now this is relevant to the joint costing system. Let's say we have a joint input, and through a common production process, up to the split of point, we generate these three common products, joint products: oil, gasoline, and chemical. So we have discussed in detail, joint costs are the cost of a single process that gives us multiple products like oil, gasoline, and chemicals after the split of point. So the cost incurred up to the split of point is called joint cost. Once oil, gasoline, and chemicals are separated, further cost incurred to refine oil or to refine gasoline or chemicals here, these costs separately incurred on oil and chemicals are called the separable cost, or sometimes called the separate processing cost or the further processing cost. Now the question is, should we sell the oil at this point? This is called sell as is, or should we process it further and sell it after further processing? So now we have to make a decision that should we sell as is or should we process it further? How do we decide? Okay, let's take some numbers. We can sell oil right at this point at $100 per barrel, for example. This is the selling price at split off. Now we have to decide, should we process it further or should we sell as is for $100? If we decide to process it further at a further processing cost of $50, we can now sell the final barrel of oil at a final selling price of $170. See, now we have to make a comparison. We will compare the incremental revenues. What is the incremental revenue? Incremental revenue is 100 versus 170. 100 we could have got by selling at split off. 170 is the final selling price after processing. So incremental revenue is $70, but the incremental cost further processing cost is $50. So clearly, revenue is more than the cost. You should go for it. You should process it further because it will enhance your profit by $20 per barrel. And let's say if after further processing, after spending $50, the final selling price of a barrel of oil is, let's say, $125, or let's say $135. Now our incremental revenue is the revenue split off versus final revenue is that $35 per barrel, but our incremental cost is $50 per barrel. So in this case, the cost of further processing is more than the incremental revenue, so we should not. So this is how we decide, should we sell as is at split off or should we process further? Here is a good question that will explain the idea in a better way. Jackson Incorporated processes raw materials into beauty products. The soap division processes fats and lye. This is an alkaline substance added to fats to convert fats into soap at a cost of $200 per batch, which yields 2,000 bars of soap. This is the joint cost incurred up to the point where these two inputs give you bars of soap. Soap can be then sold at 0.5 per bar. At this point, this is the selling price at split off, or the selling point at this particular point in production. Alternatively, various fragrances and oils can be added to produce fine soaps for the high-end retail market from a given batch of raw materials. Soap could incur an additional cost of $1.2 per bar of soap for the perfumes and attractive packaging and create lavender-scented soap. So what we have now, at this point at the split off, this is the selling price available, $0.50 per bar. Now we have two possibilities. Either we convert this soap into lavender-scented soap, I will call it lavender-scented soap, LSS, and it will require $1.2 of further additions of materials and process. And after that, or for an additional cost of 1.7 per bar, or there is another option, we can convert this into a rose-scented soap at an additional processing cost of $1.75 for rose-scented soap. Now we have lavender-scented soap, the cost will be 1.2 additional, and the rose-scented soap, that will be the require $1.75 additional cost per bar. The final selling price of lavender scented soap is 1.3 per bar for the lavender scented soap and $3 per bar for the rose scent. Okay, $3 in case of rose scented. Now just listen. If you process soap into the lavender scented soap, the final selling price is 1.3. The price at split off was 1.5. So in this case, the incremental revenue is 0.80. And what is the incremental cost? 1.2. So this part is not suitable because the cost is 1.2, the incremental revenue is 0.8. So clearly cost is more. So there is no way we're going to convert it into lavender scented soap. Let's see the second leg of this decision theory. The incremental revenue is 0.5 versus 3. Incremental revenue is quite significantly different than the above option. 3 minus 1 or 0.5 is going to be 2.5. Incremental revenue is 2.5 and incremental cost is 1.75. This is the right option. So it means the firm should process the soap into the rose scented one because the incremental revenue is more than the incremental cost, 2.5 versus 1.75. So there is an opportunity to make $0.75 per bar of additional profit if the firm decides to go for rose scented one. The last subunit is keep or drop a segment. Why to drop a segment? Why do we have to drop a segment when we are operating multiple segments? In this situation where we are faced with the decision, should we carry on a specific business segment or should we drop it? It would be because a certain segment is generating repeated losses. So we need to decide, should we carry this on as a liability or should we just drop it off, sell it off? So first of all, what you should do before deciding whether to continue using a segment, carrying on a segment, or should we just drop it, just sell it off? We need to first classify the cost. The fixed costs associated with the segment must be identified and split into two types. those fixed costs which are avoidable, and those fixed costs, and of course they will be relevant for the decision making, and those fixed costs that are unavoidable. Means even if we discontinue a segment, these costs won't go. They are irrelevant. So take the relevant portion of the fixed cost and then compare it with the contribution margin that you're giving up. Let's say we have a total of $100,000 as our fixed costs, and out of these 100,000 fixed costs for a segment X, if we discontinue segment X, we will be able to avoid $40,000 of these fixed costs. These are avoidable fixed costs, and remaining 60,000 are the allocated fixed costs which we cannot avoid. Take these avoidable fixed costs and compare avoidable fixed cost and compare it with the contribution margin that is generated by X, right? Now let's say if the contribution margin that will be lost if we discontinue this segment X, the lost contribution margin is $80,000 and avoidable fixed cost is $40,000. Now just look at this. When you discontinue this segment X, you are sacrificing $80,000 just to save $40,000 of avoidable fixed costs. It's a bad decision. It's a bad decision. Whenever your avoidable fixed cost is less, the lost contribution margin is more, you should keep the segment as is. Keep the segment if the lost contribution is more than the avoidable fixed costs. Speaking in the reverse order, let's say if our contribution that will be given up if we discontinue segment X, let's say if that contribution margin is $15,000, now you take the decision and how it will be. See, the cost you will save is $40,000, but the contribution margin given up is 15. So this is clearly a less loss than 40,000 avoidable fixed costs. In this case, you should discontinue the segment. So remember, you should drop the segment if the lost contribution is less than the avoidable fixed cost. So this is summed up right here. Right here, let me plug in the numbers to explain the idea. Lost contribution margin is 80,000 if we discontinue. Avoided fixed cost or avoidable fixed cost is 40. So in this case, we should keep the segment because contribution margin is more, avoidable fixed costs are less. In case if the lost contribution margin is 15,000 as per the example and avoidable fixed costs are 40, in that case you should drop the segment because the contribution margin generated by the segment is less, avoidable fixed costs are more, so just kill this segment. Let's do an example to explain the idea. The fixed costs are unavoidable. The executives at Chowderhead Industries are evaluating each of their product lines. A variable costing analysis by product shows that companies' clam and corn chowder products are profitable, but its conch chowder product is not. Chowder is a kind of stew, a thick soup, and this one is not profitable. There is an operating loss. It says the conch chowder fixed costs are unavoidable. This 20,000 is unavoidable. So what we compare with our contribution margin with? What should we compare this 15,000 with? You should compare the contribution margin with the fixed cost. Since the contribution margin is more than fixed cost, because the fixed cost avoidable is 0 in this case, and as per our previous understanding right here, lost contribution margin in this case, if we discontinue this item, the contribution we would be giving up is 15,000. It is greater than the avoidable fixed cost. Avoidable fixed cost is 0. So we should keep it. Let's say in the given situation, let's say if the avoidable fixed cost was 20 and the lost contribution margin was 15, in that case we should have dropped. We should have dropped the conch chowder. So please remember, lost contribution margin, if it is greater than avoidable fixed cost, which is the case in the given example, we should keep this product. At least it is generating positive contribution to cover some of the unavoidable fixed cost. But if we face a situation where there are avoidable fixed costs are 20, but the lost contribution is 15, then we should discontinue. We should discontinue or drop this segment. Now let's say if some of the fixed costs are avoidable, not all, just like the example I gave you. Let's say $16,000 of the conch chowder fixed cost are avoidable advertising costs, that will not be incurred if the product is eliminated. Now our situation would change here. Okay, where we were, right here. Now the loss contribution margin is 15 and avoidable fixed cost is 16. When avoidable fixed costs are more than the loss contribution margin, then the point is we should drop this product because we are avoiding more costs by dropping and the loss contribution is less. So the benefit of avoiding costs is more than the loss of contribution margin. We should drop. Now there are some strategic factors that must be considered before we go for the final decision. The first point to consider is that maybe conch is a complementary product that sells with con or com, because there may be some positive correlation between conch or any of these items A or B. So this must be seen. Sometimes we sell an item at a loss because it is correlated positively with other items, so their sale would compensate for the loss. This is an important point. And if you discontinue conch, maybe the employees who were engaged in producing this item, they might be laid off. This would result in demoralizing staff. Employees' morale will be lowered. Or perhaps if you are discontinuing right now, probably in the future it has a potential to grow. So this loss can now be reversed in the future. Right? So you must consider these factors, these strategic factors, before deciding to close down a segment. So that completes your module 4, marginal analysis.